This is the homework for 115, 16, 17, 19, and 21. For problem 117, you need to simplify each expression. 2/9 plus a negative 1/2. When you're adding a negative, it's the same as subtracting. So here I have 2/9 minus 1/2. Well, in order to add or subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. So I find the least common multiple of 2 and 9. The least common multiple is 18. If you can't find the least common multiple, then you can just multiply these two, which ends up being the least common multiple. So what did I multiply to get 9? To get 18, which is 9. 2 multiplied by 9 is 18. Whatever you do to the denominator, you need to do the numerator. So 1 multiplied by 9 is 9. 9 multiplied by 2 is 18. So I have to do that to the numerator. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. So now I have a common denominator. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and subtract these two. And I have negative 9/18 plus 4/18. And the reason why I put this value up on top is because I can subtract 9 from 4. And so 9 minus 4 is 5 and 5/18. I have more negatives than positives, so I know it's going to be a negative number. Now, if I were to subtract these two, I would have had to have done 4 minus 9. Well, 4 minus 9 is a negative 5 over 18. Either way works. Problem B, negative 6/7 minus 3/5. I'm going to go ahead and stack them. And I found, and remember, in order to add or subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. The common denominator is 35. 5 multiplied by 7 is 35. 7 multiplied by 5 is 35. What you do to the numerator, you also have to do to the whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So I did 7 multiplied by 5 is 35. 6 multiplied by 5 is 30. And now both of these are negatives. So I know this is going to be a negative value. So 30 and 21 is 52/35. Now the reason why I added these and didn't subtract them is because these are both negative values. Think if you dug down 30 feet and then dug down 21 feet, you keep digging down. You're adding those two values together. Problem C, 9/10 multiplied by negative 2/3. So here I went ahead and removed the parentheses, and you can see that I can simplify by cross-canceling. 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we simplified, and I can also simplify these two. They're both divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And when you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. 5 multiplied by 1 is 5. But this is a negative 3/5. The reason, remember the rule. I call this Pizza Bob. When you multiply a negative and a positive, it's going to be a negative. If you multiply a negative and a negative, it's going to be a positive. So if you ever forget the rule, just go ahead and make Pizza Bob. Circle whatever two terms you're multiplying. I have a positive and a negative, and what's left is the sign. So it's negative 3/5. Problem D, we're dividing two fractions. In order to divide two fractions, you take the reciprocal of the second term, which would give us 7/2. And then now we multiply. 1 multiplied by 7 is 7. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. 7/8. For problem 19, you need to evaluate the expressions. So when we're evaluating, you're given the value of x, and we're going to plug it in to x. So x equals -3, so wherever there's an x, we're going to substitute that with -3. Now, when I evaluate, I like to put whatever the value is in parentheses, because especially this is important because this is a -3 that is being squared. Now I have to follow order of operations to simplify this expression. You might have heard of PEMDAS, P for parentheses, but I use GEMDAS, G for grouping, because you're going to be using more than just parentheses this year. So G for grouping symbols, exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction, left to right. So we're starting with grouping symbols. So inside the parentheses, we don't need to simplify, so there's nothing to simplify. So now we go on to exponents. So now we're going to -3 squared. Well, -3 squared means -3 multiplied by -3. So a negative multiplied by a negative is going to be a positive. So here's Pizza Bob in the previous problem. Negative multiplied by negative is going to equal a positive. Here we have a negative multiplied by a positive. Negative multiplied by positive is going to equal a negative. So now we're doing multiplication. So we multiply these two. -2 multiplied by 9 is going to equal -18. And now for the last part of GEMDAS, order of operations, we have addition and subtraction from left to right. -18 plus 1. We have more negatives than positives. So we know the sum is going to equal a negative value. So, and when your signs are opposite, you keep the sign that you have the greater value of, or the more of, which is more negatives, and then you subtract them. So we know it's a negative. Now we subtract them. 18 minus 1 is 17, which gives us -17. Problem 19b, we're going to evaluate 2x for x equals 3. So we're going to plug in 3 for x. And now we have 2 to the third power. This means 2 multiplied by itself 3 times. 2 multiplied by 2, it's going to be 4. 4 multiplied by 2 equals 8. In problem 121, we need to calculate the value of the expression. So we're going to follow order of operations, GEMDAS, and I like to start in the numerator and work my way down to the denominator. So we don't have any grouping, but we do have exponents. So we need to simplify 3 to the second power. So 3 to the second power equals 9. 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. Now, we don't have any more exponents, but we do have multiplication. So remember, multiplication and division from left to right. So we need to do this part before we do this. We can't add before we multiply. It's not following order of operations. So we have 2 multiplied by 8, which is going to equal 16. Now we can simplify addition and subtraction from left to right. 9 plus 16 equals 25. 16 minus 11 equals 5. So this can be simplified in proper fraction. 25 divided by 5 equals 5. Problem 21c. I rewrote GEMDAS when I'm For problem 21C, we need to find the value of the expression. And here we have multiple grouping symbols. We have parentheses. Inside, this is brackets. On yours, it has parentheses, but I just wanted to show you what another grouping symbol would look like. So you always start with the innermost grouping symbols. So here we have parentheses, and then inside these parentheses, we need to follow order of operations. So we need to, we can't subtract before we multiply. We need to follow GEMDAS, order of operations. So we have a negative 10 multiplied by 3, which is going to give us a negative 30. Still have to simplify inside these parentheses. 8 minus 30. We have more negatives than positives, so we know it's going to be a negative value. Signs are opposite, so we subtract. So it's negative. 30 minus 8 is 22, so negative 22. Always ask yourself, do you have more positives or negatives? And whichever you have more of, that will be your sign. Now inside these brackets, we have to still follow order of operations, which we go back and we have exponents. So 2 to the third power. 2 to the third power equals 8. Remember, 2 to the third power is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, which gives us 8. Now inside the brackets, we can go ahead and follow order of operations, addition and subtraction from left to right. We have more negatives than positives, so we know it's going to be a negative value. And 22 minus 8 is 14. So negative 14. Here we have negative 14 and negative 5. I call it a dig. You dig down 14 feet, and then you dig down 5 more feet. So you're adding these two values together, but you know it's going to be a negative value. So negative 14 and negative 5 equals negative 19. Now we're going to multiply these two. And here's Pizza Bob. I have a positive multiplied by a negative, which will give me a negative value. So 4 multiplied by negative 19 equals negative 76.